Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to install the Tusk UTV Folding Glass Windshield on your 2024 and newer Polaris RZR XP 1000. This is going to work for the 2 and the 4-seaters, and you're getting a lot of benefits with this. So it's best of both worlds. You're getting the protection you're looking for in the front. It's made from laminated safety auto glass, so it's super durable and going to stay looking good for a long time. You also have the windshield wiper to help clean it off when it does get dusty. And if things warm up throughout the day, you have vents in the bottom to let some airflow into the cab. And if you're out on an extremely hot day and you want maximum airflow through the cab, you can simply fold this down and out of the way. It's got super durable mounts in the front as well to hold it securely. Now, one more thing I want to point out with this is it works with your stock roof or with the Tusk roof as well. So with all that said, it's simple to install. Let's go ahead and get started. To start out, we have all of the hardware laid out on our table, and I also have all of the tools I'm going to need for the job. The things I want to point out are the 4 and 5 millimeter Allens and a 10 and 13 millimeter combo wrench. Other than that, we're using scissors and a 19 millimeter wrench. Some of this other stuff is optional. And the first thing you want to prep is your filler panel. So we've got this with the front side facing up, and the bends, they are facing down. So with this, you need to apply some foam tape to the top. You've got 3 different sizes of foam tape that came with your kit. So you have the thick, the thin, and the skinny. You're gonna use the 34-inch piece of thin foam tape all the way across the top right here, and you just wanna use some scissors to trim it to length in each section. Then you're gonna wanna flip this over. So on this other side, we're moving to the thick pieces of foam tape. So again, 34-inch piece going across the top on this inside, and then the 9-inch pieces going down the sides. Next, you want to take your 12-inch skinny piece of foam tape, and you're going to go around the perimeter of that vent door. And then go ahead and do the same thing to this other side. And then we're going to flip the windshield over. And as you're working on your windshield, make sure you have a soft blanket laid out, or for us, we're using some wooden blocks to space this out. The next step is to install your bulb seal. So we're going to start with this 48-inch piece. It's going to go across the bottom of the windshield. There are a couple things you want to know about it. Number one, if you ever find a spot on this that doesn't fit very tight to the windshield, you can pinch this together for a tighter fit. And then if you have extra length at the end, you can use some side cutters to cut that off. So we'll just start on one side and work our way to the other. And if it's kind of hard to push on, you can use a dead blow hammer or soft face mallet, and you can actually tap this on. Then we have the 3-inch piece that's going to go on that tab in the middle. Next, we need to apply some foam tape to the inside of the windshield. So right at the hinge towards the bottom, you want to start about 1 rivet in. You're going to take that 88-inch thick piece of foam tape, apply it right there. You're going to go around this corner and go all the way around the perimeter to the other side, and you should end up right at that first rivet on the other side next to that hinge. Now, if you have excess, make sure you trim that off. And you'll notice that the tape is probably covering some of your mounting holes. You can trim that off with a razor blade and clear those holes up. From here, you should have a couple 6-inch pieces of thick foam tape left over, and you're gonna wanna add those to the bottom corners. You're gonna have to trim them up on each side, and then we're also applying foam tape vertically to this lower section of the frame on each side. The next step is to install the brackets to your vent doors. So to do this, we're going to use the same hardware for everything. So the M6 by 16 millimeter button head bolts and the nylock nuts. We're going to start with vent bracket A, and we're starting on the passenger side. So with this bracket, this bend with the threaded insert, that's going to face towards the outside of the windshield. So I'm going to set that over the 2 holes in our hinge. Use the bolts from the outside coming in, and then the nylock nuts on top. And all of the hardware we're going to leave loose until the final step. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm just spacing everything out with some wooden blocks. They're also holding these vent doors shut, and it just makes everything quite a bit easier. So next we're going to take vent bracket B. So this bend, again, this is going to face the outside of the windshield. We'll use that same hardware to install it. The next step is to install vent bracket C. So you can see this has an arc to it, and these are side specific. So the bend at the top of this, you want facing the center of this windshield. The reason for that is once you have the hand knob in place, if it's facing the other way, it can kind of get in the way. So we're going to start at the bottom. Again, we've got that same size bolt. Go through bracket C, then bracket B. Nylock nut on the inside. And now we can take the hand knob, go through that slot. We've got a friction washer, and then screw that into the threaded insert on bracket A. And then from here, I like to tighten everything down in about 2 steps. I'll get everything to where it's almost snug, where you can still move the brackets, get it all centered up, and then tighten this knob and make sure everything's aligned, and then do the final tightening. Last thing you want to know is the pivot for bracket C. As soon as this nut bottoms out, you want to back that off about a 1/4 turn, and that's going to allow everything to pivot freely. So from here, we're going to slide that block of wood over. I'm going to loosen up the hand knob, make sure that opens and closes easily, which it does. So now I can go ahead and do those same steps to the other vent door. Now over at the machine, if you have a roof or any other accessories like a light bar or mirrors, you want to loosen up that hardware so you can get this installed, and in some cases you may have to remove some of those items. So with that being said, we're going to start with the open clamp first. So we have a rubber strip that comes with it. It's going to sit at the bottom of the A-pillar, and we're just setting this clamp over it, and then we're using the 2 bolts that came with it. We're going to thread those in, and we're going to leave this clamp loose enough we can make adjustments. So again, when you're installing this, make sure that mount is facing towards the inside of the machine. And then we're going to do the same steps on the other side. The next step is to install the left hand and right hand braces, and we're going to install those into each corner panel right here. So to get these installed, we're going to remove these 3 screws, and we're using a T40 Torx bit to do that. And these are just going to help support the hood mounts that we're going to install in a later step. And on the back side of this front mounting location, there's a little J nut. I'm just using a pick to pop that out, and we're not going to reuse it. And to slide the brace into this corner panel, you're going to have to slightly pull back on this plastic just a little bit, but it should fall right into place. Just like that. And then we can reinstall the 3 Torx screws we previously removed. And as you do that, you might just have to move the bracket back and forth to line up the slots with those screw holes.
Then go ahead and do those same steps on the other side.
Next, we're going to install the filler panel. It's going to install to the roll cage gussets in that mounting location right there. And to get this mounted up, we're using the M8 by 30 millimeter button head bolts. I've got a M8 washer, go through the filler panel. Then you've got your spacer on the back side. I'm going to set this in place, and I already have that bolt on the other side just to hold it for me. And then we've got the nylock nut on the inside.
And if you're installing a Tusk roof, it came with 35 millimeter bolts to go through the roof and filler panel.
And we're just going to leave this hardware loose for now so we can make adjustments. Next, you want to have a friend help you carry the windshield over to the machine. And we've got the shorter M8 bolts that are going to screw into those open clamps. Then you can fold the windshield up and use the hand knobs to screw into the filler panel. And you might have to move the filler panel up and down, left and right to get everything to line up. And with everything loosely installed, from here you want to adjust the windshield side to side and up and down. And you want the adjustment for these hand knobs. You want that screw to be right in the middle of the slot. And then you can go ahead and tighten these down. After that, you can tighten down the filler panel bolts. Now to get these lower bolts tightened up without having this clamp move, I'm going to lightly snug up these bolts, but I don't want them so tight that the clamp can't move at all. You just don't want it moving around while you fold the windshield down. So once you tighten that 8 millimeter bolt on the front, that's going to pull the clamp up just a little bit, and then you can do the final tightening on these open clamps. So now as I fold this windshield down, I don't want this to get hinge bound, so I have this 2-inch roll of tape. I'm going to use that to hold the windshield up off the hood. But if you have anything that is soft, that's not going to damage your windshield, you can use that to space it out. And again, I can go ahead and tighten these lower mounting bolts and follow that up with the 2 bolts on the clamp. Do the final tightening on those. And now from here, I'm just going to fold this back up, and I want to verify alignment. That way, if something is off, I can take care of it now. You want to make sure that these hand knobs screw in easily. We're looking good on this. Check the other side. Now for the standoff bracket, you can see we've actually had these installed once before, but we're going to show you this anyway. So with this, they are side specific. So we've got the lower mount going down here, and the bracket's going to face slightly forward. This top should be pretty level. We'll use the existing T40 screw to mount this up, go through the bracket and into that nut insert. And I'm going to leave it slightly loose to make adjustments. So from here, we need to lower the windshield down. And again, I'm using that roll of tape to hold it in place while I line everything up here. Then to set this in the final spot, this is going to be higher than that roll of tape. But all you're doing is swinging up the standoff bracket, and you want to make sure that the threads on this are centered up with that slot in the windshield frame. And with everything centered, you can go ahead and thread this in place and tighten it down all the way. And you want to do those steps on both sides. The next step is to take this longer spacer. You're going to put that between the standoff bracket and your hood. And you want to center that up as best as possible. Then take your 1/4 inch drill bit, slide that down, and then you can make a mark where you need to drill. And then from here, we've got that other bracket on the other side that's going to help hold the windshield up. So I'm going to loosen this and rotate that bracket down. You can see our mark right there. I'm just going to use my drill and drill that out. So I can go ahead and remove that tape. Next, You'll notice that your kit came with several extra washers. So you can use the extra washers to take up any extra space in your standoff bracket. This one seems like it fits pretty tight, but I'm gonna go ahead and put that hand knob back in the top. Again, centering it up.
Now we can do the final tightening on the Torx screws.
And I'm just gonna verify that the spacer fits snug. And with everything tightened down, we probably do need one of these extra washers in here. So how this is gonna go together now, I'm just gonna verify that. So yeah, that's a snug fit right there. That's just what we want. It's not putting much pressure on this bracket at all. It's just taking up any extra space. So now we have these long M6 bolts. Put that M6 washer on, go through the washer and spacer, through the hole we just drilled. And then on the back side of the hood, we've got a washer and a nylock nut we're gonna install. Then we can tighten it down, and just keep in mind that it has a nylock nut, so you don't have to go crazy with it. You're just pinching it on that plastic. But with that side done, we'll go ahead and finish up the other side. Now with the standoff brackets done, you want to make sure you can back off these hand knobs easily. They should spin just like that. If they don't, the alignment is off. So again, take advantage of the extra washers that come in the kit. Either add or take away the washers. And again, the bottom of that mount is slotted, so you can move the whole bracket back and forth a little bit. But get those adjusted up right. Last thing we need to do is install the windshield wiper. So there's going to be a little plastic plug in the center. Ours is already popped out. There's just 2 tabs. Press that thing out. Then you're going to start with the mount. So you need to remove that from the handle. So we're taking off the smaller nut. This is the mount right here. So I'm going to set the handle aside. Now with the mount, all you need to do, remove one of these bigger nuts. You've got a washer and grommet that you're going to take off as well. Those ones kind of wanted to stick together. And you can adjust this mount to stick out however far you want, but a good base setting is going to be right in the middle. So I'm not even moving that other nut. I'm going to come in through the front of the windshield, reinstall that rubber grommet, washer. We've got a nut on the back side. And I'm going to use a 19mm wrench and adjustable wrench to tighten these down. Just don't go too crazy with it. You just want to compress that rubber a little bit. Next, to prep the wiper, I'm going to remove that cover from the blade. You're going to have 2 tabs to press up on the wiper, and that's going to allow this cover to pop up. Now you can take the wiper arm, stick it through the cover, slide it onto the arm, and you just want to make sure the arm is past these little tabs at the end, which ours is, so we can push the cover back down, pop that into place. I'm going to set that handle down into place, and then to get the wiper on, I'm going to have to raise the windshield just a little bit, but just take note, there's splines on this handle right here that line up with the splines in the wiper arm. So once you line those up, you can install that small nut on the outside and then put your cover in place. And then as you assemble this, I just like to make sure that the handle and wiper arm are pretty close to being lined up. And we'll go ahead and tighten down the nut. Just be careful not to over tighten it. So that's it for installing the folding glass windshield on your 24 and newer XP 1000. Again, the 2 and the 4-seaters, it's going to work for both. And if you need one of these, you can find them on our website. Just click the link in the description below. We're also going to be installing some other accessories on this machine. So follow us over to those videos. We're going to be doing a roof and rear window, and make sure you subscribe to our channel for more helpful content like that. I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ETV MC. Thanks for watching.